Hello, it's Saturday the 5th of November. You're tuned in to our 6 p.m. newscast coming to you from Arirang's news centre in Seoul. It's very good to have you with us today. I'm Mark Broom. We start with the abuse of power scandal that has enveloped the Park Geun-hye administration. Prosecutors are ramping up their investigations into two former presidential aides with alleged links to the scandal. Former senior presidential secretary for policy coordination An Jung-bom is believed to have meddled in the fundraising activities of two controversial non-profit organizations created by Choi Soon-sil, a longtime friend of President Park and the woman at the center of this scandal. Former presidential personnel secretary Jung Ho-song is alleged to have leaked confidential presidential documents that included diplomatic and security issues to Choi. Prosecutors are still deciding whether to request arrest warrants for the two men. Looking to tighten the financial noose on Pyongyang, the United States has finalized a proposal to further isolate North Korea from the international banking system. Our Ji Myung-gil has more.
The U.S. Treasury Department has issued a final rule that prohibits U.S. financial institutions from opening or maintaining accounts for North Korean banks. It also requires that they apply additional due diligence measures in order to prevent North Korean financial institutions from gaining improper access to the U.S. financial system. The rule was proposed in June, whereby the Treasury designated North Korea as a primary money laundering concern. Adam Zubin, the acting Undersecretary of Treasury for Terrorism and Financial Intelligence, says Pyongyang is using front companies and agents to conduct illicit financial transactions to support the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction and to evade international sanctions. The U.S. Treasury had previously used an anti-money laundering provision to target the North illicit activity, like the 2005 blacklisting of Banco Delta Asia, a bank in Macau. Although the measure was seen as the most effective U.S. sanction at the time, the measure was lifted in exchange for cooperation on nuclear issues. Experts say the latest designation could have a greater impact than the Banco Delta Asia sanctions because it designates North Korea as a whole, not just one bank. Ji Myung-gil, Arirang News.
Newly released figures show 204 North Korean defectors have entered the United States as refugees since 2006. Citing the State Department, U.S. broadcaster Voice of America reports that the latest defector arrived in the U.S. on Thursday, a woman in her 30s who is settled in Illinois. The data shows 12 North Korean defectors have started new lives in the U.S. this year alone. North Koreans can be granted refugee status under the U.S. North Korean Human Rights Act, as well as receiving some financial support from the U.S. government. Defectors are also given free health insurance and food vouchers for the first 8 months. They can apply for permanent residency after a year and receive citizenship after 5 years. Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump have been hitting the campaign trail, flying from swing state to swing state as the race for the White House enters its final stage. The latest polls suggest Clinton has a slight edge on Trump, but her lead is razor thin and narrowing. Clinton has switched up her schedule to visit areas that only 2 weeks ago had been expected to vote for her. Clinton ended campaigning on Friday at a concert where she was joined by the rapper Jay-Z and his wife Beyoncé. Trump later told his supporters that he did not need celebrities and singers to draw big crowds, saying he does just fine by himself. Trump also latched on to a newly released jobs report, saying the moderately positive figures have been skewed by the large number of people who have stopped looking for jobs and are no longer in the labour market. Now, as we just heard, his chances of winning the White House are growing, but a big investment bank reckons Wall Street could be in for a rollercoaster ride if Donald Trump is elected, echoing warnings issued prior to Britain's vote to leave the EU. Analysts at Citigroup say a Trump win could spark an immediate sell-off of up to 5% for the S&P 500. They also warned of slower growth or even recession in the United States. The S&P 500 on Friday posted its 9th straight session of declines, its longest losing streak since December 1980, amid investors' rising concerns Trump might actually win. The tech-heavy Nasdaq also ended lower for a ninth straight session, while the Dow closed down for a seventh consecutive day. The Islamic State militant group has claimed responsibility for a car bombing in Turkey. It's the first time the terror group has taken credit for a bomb attack in that country. The car bombing Friday targeted a police station in southeastern Turkey, killing 7 civilians and 2 police officers. Scores more were injured in the blast. The announcement by the group's Amaq news agency comes a matter of days after ISIS leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi called for attacks in Turkey. The Islamic State's claim conflicts with an earlier statement from Turkish authorities who blamed the Kurdistan Workers' Party, the PKK, for the attack. Korea's biggest automakers, Hyundai Motor and Kia Motors, enjoyed a bumper September in the British market. Britain's Society of Motor Manufacturers and Traders says Hyundai Motor sold slightly over 17,000 cars in Britain in September, a 10% jump from the same month last year. Kia Motors sold more than 15,000 vehicles, also up 10% on year. Now, the jump in sales came despite concerns stemming from Britain's planned exit from the European Union. A representative for the automakers says sales in the UK are being driven by their SUV models, the Hyundai Tucson and Kia Sportage. Korean researchers may have discovered a new way to prevent lung cancer. They've found that certain kinds of blood pressure medication can inhibit the generation of cancer cells. Kim Jung-soo has more.
Lung cancer is the leading cause of cancer-related deaths in Korea. The biggest cause of lung cancer is smoking, and 90% of lung cancer patients are reported to have smoked. Now, researchers in Korea have found how lung cancer forms as a result of smoking, and they may also have found a way to prevent it. When cancer-causing agents in cigarettes enter the body, they stimulate calcium channels and calcium enters the cells. Substances that help promote cell growth are pushed out, inducing cancer cell development. The researchers discovered that blocking the calcium channels stops cancer cells from forming. When mice that were fed tobacco constituents were treated with calcium channel blockers for 12 weeks, the rate of cancer cell formation was reduced to 1/10 that of the control group. The blockers also proved effective in preventing lung cancer caused by stress. Many existing blood pressure medications are being used to block calcium channels, but they could also be used to prevent lung cancer. In a study of 7.5 million patients with hypertension, the incidence of lung cancer was reduced by about 30% among those that took drugs with calcium channel blocking effects, compared to those who did not.
Based on the data for patients who took medications to suppress high blood pressure, we believe the medicines could be used to prevent or treat cancer. The dosage used to treat high blood pressure could inhibit the development of lung cancer.
The researchers believe their findings will help those at risk from lung cancer and patients who have overcome the illness. Kim Jung-soo, Arirang News.
Now, some of the world's best cyclists are in Korea this weekend for the world's most prestigious amateur cycling race. The race got underway early Saturday morning, and our Kim Hae-sung was there and filed this report.
Cyclists whiz past a scenic backdrop. It's Let Up Korea, the inaugural Asia series of the world-renowned amateur cycling event that brings the century-old tradition of the Tour de France to Seoul. Cyclists paddled off from Olympic Park at 7 a.m. sharp, moving past Mount Jungmi and Murange Park in the perfect autumn weather. More than 1,500 professional and amateur cyclists from 14 countries participated in the 130-kilometer-long race. In celebration of the 130th anniversary of diplomatic ties between Korea and France, the Korea Cycling Federation played host to the first Let Up Korea. Of the big names taking part, the most well-known was three-time Tour de France champion Chris Froome.
It's a big honor to be part of the first Let Up Korea. It's special to be here, and I think it was a great atmosphere out on the roads. I think everyone enjoyed it. Which is the most important thing. It's great to see so many people riding.
By 11 a.m., cyclists started passing the finish line. Despite feeling drained, many shouted in joy, cheered, and took selfies, all with big smiles on their faces.
I can't believe I was in the same race as Chris Froome. It was amazing. I think this is the first time roads were blocked off to hold a cycling event in Seoul. I hope Letap Korea can be held every year.
For a much-needed energy boost after their exertions, the cyclists joined their family and friends for a taste of French culture and cuisine at the La Tour de France Village Festival. Another Letap Korea race will take place on Sunday morning at Olympic Park, and given its success, perhaps there will be more to come in the future. Kim Hae-sung, Arirang News.
Now, finally, we are going to take a look at the weather, and most of the country is under partly cloudy skies tonight. It's going to be a fairly mild night for the time of the year, the overnight low only dipping to 9 degrees Celsius. Sunday is going to be pretty nice, with the afternoon highs in the mid to high teens nationwide. With that, let's take a look at the weather map for Korea and the rest of the world. And that's all we have for now. Do enjoy the rest of your Saturday wherever you're watching us, and stay tuned to Arirang TV. We'll be back again with our next newscast coming up at 10 p.m. Korea time. So until then, goodbye.